What you guys, got another video here for you. In this one we're taking a look at, is it worth still buying used PC parts? This topic comes up quite a lot, and I think it's because there's a lot of YouTubers that create content showing how you can build PCs with used PC parts and still get great performance, and that is rightly so. A lot of i5s and i7s of older generations still work pretty well when paired with the proper graphics card. So I thought, is it still worth buying them? Now the Ryzen generations have been out for a while. There's plenty of Ryzen options on the market. Now you can actually buy used Ryzen processors as well as new, but I'd advise you to make sure that you can get them cheap enough to make it a viable option to buy. Now the Ryzen processor prices have dropped dramatically, and you can pick these up pretty cheap nowadays, which I think is damaging the used market. They need to start bringing the used market prices down because people are overcharging. You can see we've got a Ryzen 5 2600 here, which is a second gen processor, 6-core processor, and it's pretty cheap. It's $120. You can see here we've got the MSI B450 motherboard Pro version, which is pretty good. This is the max version. This is the brand new one on the market. Probably one of the best B450 motherboards out there. We've got 16 gigabytes of RGB RAM, and it's only 3000 megahertz. Yeah, that's okay. It still works, but basically you'll get the general idea. So you can see here we've got some memory, and this is DDR4 memory, brand new. Everything's brand new in the box. Got a Crucial BX 500, and again you can change this out for any type of brand of SSD. I'm just trying to get the cheapest prices possible. XFX Radeon RX 580 8GB version, and also we've got the Thermaltake case here, which is one of the cheaper ones, and also we've got a 80 plus bronze, which comes to $532, which is the price you'd expect for something like this. Now remember, this is all brand new, and again that's probably around about £400 or just under £400 in the UK. Now that's a pretty decent build and a pretty decent price. So what are you getting when you're buying used PCs on the market? So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the used ones which I stumbled across. Now the way I chose these was by putting gaming PC in, and I was just looking, and up they all come. There was loads of them. Now this one says condition opened, never used. So when you look here in the more information, it tells you our gaming PCs are made using brand new components, excluding the motherboard and CPU. Well, that is the computer. That is basically the brains of the computer right there. It's brand new, and apart from the motherboard and CPU, which makes it an old computer basically. You can see processor here is an i5 2400 in this case I've chosen, and 32 gigabytes of RAM, and of course 240 gigabyte SSD, which means nothing because they're not that expensive, 1 terabyte hard drive, and a 3 gigabyte GTX 1060 at £486. So you're getting a second gen processor, which is super old. It really is. And yeah, it will play games with that GTX 1060, but the problem is it's old, and you're using an old second gen Intel processor with an old motherboard, and that could be any motherboard. That could be a Dell motherboard in there, could be a HP, could be anything really. You don't know what you're getting, and it's pretty old. Oh, and 32 gigabytes of RAM, but that's not going to do you much good when you're doing that sort of stuff. It's a bit overkill, and it's probably just a mishmash of cheap RAM that they've got in there from China. And as you can see, the CPU itself you can buy used for £16.99. You can either have the i3 2100 or the i5 2400 or the i7 2600, and all of these are pretty old hat nowadays. DDR3 architecture, as you can see, and again it's still okay to play games. You can choose one of the free graphics cards here with probably a cheap PSU in there. It's probably a cheap 20 odd pound PSU, so you're not getting really a lot for your money, to be honest with you. And again, here you go with the I/O panel being situated at the top of the front panel, giving you easier access to two USBs. Please be aware that the USB 3.0 port and card reader on this machine are not supported with the current motherboard. So pretty much you're buying an old system which you can't upgrade. It doesn't use USB 3.0. It's a second gen system, really rubbish. Honestly, don't waste your money on that. And that's nearly £500. Again, gaming PC i5 GTX 1050 Ti, 8GB of RAM with Windows 10 240GB SSD. He wants £300 for this. And what you're going to get for your hard-earned cash is a Dell motherboard put into another case, and that's basically it. It's someone else's project which they've probably done a video on, or they've been using, watched some YouTube video on how to cannibalize an old Dell Optiplex. It's got a rubbish power supply in it. I've done a video on these power supplies. They're like £20. They're not worth anything, and you can see cheap RAM inside there as well. Another one here, gaming PC with Intel Core i5 3450 3rd gen processor in there, 8GB of RAM and 500GB. I love how he's calling it a gaming PC and it doesn't even have a graphics card to play games with. So I mean, really, here we have another example, ultra fast i5 gaming PC, 8GB GTX DDR5 and also HDMI graphics, 500GB of HD Wi-Fi. I don't know what that title says there, but £229.50. And again, no other pictures apart from the case. It does tell you that it plays all of these games in a nice list here, and there you go, you've got an i5 650. That's what's inside there. It's shocking, really. It's got a 2-core and 4 threads. It's one of the old i5s, not worth the money at all. And again, you can pick these up for literally £10 or for £8 here. As you can see, these listings are not what I would call gaming systems. They are pretty poor, and you really want to steer clear of these sort of things because they want good money for really old rubbish. So that's what you've got to be careful of. Also, you can see here, gaming PC i5 16GB of RAM, RX 580, price negotiable. Now that is not a bad graphics card. He's asking you to make an offer as well, £414. It's probably one of the most tidier ones out of the lot here. It's got pretty good cable management there. Again, 16GB of RAM. It's got a 4th gen i5, which is more what I would go for rather than some of the older 2nd gens and stuff like that and 3rd gen. So it's a little bit newer, and again, it's not too bad, but it's still pretty pricey. You got the Gamer Max here as well. This is another one. Fast gaming PC, Windows 10, 1TB, 16GB of RAM, GT 710. 2GB with an i5. It's not telling you what i5 it is. It's probably really old, and again, the GT 710 doesn't make this a fast gaming PC. It's an absolute rubbish graphics card. You can pick these up for like literally used, probably a tenner, £10, $10, brand new 38. And you can see how many's been sold. Look, 153 have been sold. Why is that many been sold? Because people like him are buying them, putting them into old PCs and selling them and trying to make a profit. £250 is going to get you ripped off. Again, gaming PC i5 3570K, GTX 970 with 16GB of RAM, SSD 120. It's a pretty tidy build, £349, little bit pricey, as with all of the ones that I've showed you are pretty pricey. You will need to get them down in price. Now this one does look very neat and tidy like the one which I showed you a little bit while ago. That does look pretty nice as well. Again, checking the prices here. These graphics cards are going in at a reasonable price, and also the CPUs are still holding pretty strong, around about £49 and £45 and things like that. You might win one in a little bidding thing there for a cheap price, but again, that is the general price there. So £349 with a 970 in there and 16GB of RAM with a 120 SSD. It's still a little bit pricey, but it is a nice tidy build. The guy's probably trying to earn a few quid out of making a nice build, so I suppose that's probably why it's reflecting in that price. Again, how much is it worth? How much do you really want to pay? You can buy build a brand new PC like I've showed you, which will absolutely annihilate that system. So again, this is the specs here. The i5 3570K. It's got an Arctic Freezer 7 Pro. At least he's listed everything what you're going to get. HyperX DDR3 1600 megahertz. Remember, this is older stuff. There's a cheap case he's put there, and also he's put in some new thermal compound and the aero cooler integrator power supply he's put in there as well, which is new. So he's actually give it a new lease of life by adding some new stuff in there, but again, it's pretty old. 1600 megahertz RAM and a GTX 970. You could build that whole brand new system I showed you there earlier on, and it is a third gen processor there. So yeah, pretty old, but again, as I said, you can get that other system which I showed you for, I think it was £400 or just under £400, and he's wanting $350 for this. So again, you would get brand new with warranty on everything, the graphics card, the CPU, the motherboard, everything's brand new, and I'm pretty sure you can tweak that to suit your needs. Again, these prices what you're seeing here are pretty extortionate for used hardware. So let's move on to another one here, and we'll take a look at some other ones that we have here. So all in all, that price there for all that stuff is not really worth it, to be fair. So let's move on. So I'm just going to flick through some others here. I'm not going to spend too much time because I think you generally get the idea that you have to be very careful when buying used parts, because some of them are overpriced and some of them is just not worth buying. So you have to know what you're looking for. Again, gaming PC, they love using that word. VR ready PC GTX 1060 quad core i5 3570. I think you're getting an idea that all of these old i5s are really old. You can see in the background boxes of CIT Beam, CIT Zoom. These are all case manufacturers, cheap cases which you can pick up dirt cheap. Looks like he's buying cases and making old systems out of them. You can see this is one's got generic RAM in there, ketchup and mustard, cheap power supply cables. He's got a 12 volt RAW on the graphics card splitted on there. Here's another one here, ultra fast gaming PC i5 quad core 3rd gen GT 640, not worth the money. It's an old Dell Optiplex with an LED light in the front to make it look modern. Again, it's just old tat. £29, £20, same sort of thing, showing you can play all these games. It's just not worth spending the money on. And this case is from the archives. I can remember these in 2005 or something like that. It's years old, literally years old, and he wants £200 for that build. I mean, it's literally 4 gigabytes of RAM. It's got Windows 10 1909, which you can download for free. You're getting an i5, which he doesn't tell you the version of it and which version it is. No one's bidding on it. I'm not surprised, because I can remember these cases way back when. The Wi-Fi card's not plugged in. The Ethernet port has the grounding strap jammed inside, which means that's going to short out if someone plugs in the Ethernet cable. It just looks absolutely shocking. There's no reason to want to buy that. Look inside there, it's terrible. I mean, personally, 500 gigabyte hard drive, it's some old rubbish, steer clear of it. And there again, there's the end result, $532, which is around about £400. So what are the differences between used and new? So let's cover that right now. You can see I've just shown you some examples there. Some of those are old architecture, 2nd gen i5s, 3rd gen i5s, DDR2 and DDR3 architecture, super old stuff. Now some of the DDR3 stuff is still usable and serviceable. You can still play games on some of them, but not with the graphics cards that they're selling them with. There was only probably 1 or 2 systems there with the 970, which you can actually use in the modern day for gaming. But some of them old ones, like the 710 GT 710, is not worth buying. You can't do anything with it. And some of them ones that have been cannibalized out of Dell Optiplexes or HP and put into another case, steer clear of those as well. They're not worth buying. They've got proprietary parts in them, and you can't change the coolers and stuff like that. It makes it a nightmare to actually work with. If anyone is selling those on the market and trying to palm them off as gaming systems, do not buy them. So basically, what I would say, so was any of those ones that I showed worth buying? In my personal opinion, there was probably one or two which you could actually go for, but the price would have to come down a fair bit to make it worth buying, because obviously you can buy brand new, which I was just showing there, for like £400, and that is going to have a warranty on it. It's going to be faster, probably up to 30% or more times faster than what you're going to be buying with the older stuff. It's going to have some longevity to it because it's all brand new. It's also got modern architecture, DDR4, and again it's going to have great upgradability because obviously it's a Ryzen 2 system, so you can upgrade that at a later date to a Ryzen 3 if you wanted to, and it would work perfectly fine. So you've got upgradability and all that sort of stuff for just £400. Now if the other ones are selling at ridiculous money like that i5 2400, which was something like 480 odd pounds, well, you can see you're already paying more for that than you would be for a brand new system. So it's a bit of a scam. So just stay clear of those types of systems. And if you need any help with picking parts or ideas, if you've got a link that you want to share with me on Discord and say, is this worth the money, then by all means put them up there and I'll take a look for you, and I'll soon let you know whether it's worth buying them. Now, I'm not saying the used market is completely finished. In some countries you can still buy used products for pretty cheap prices, but in the UK it seems to have gone way out of proportion. There's prices that are way through the roof, and it just doesn't make it worth buying used compared to new. What it is people that are getting old systems, putting them together and trying to sting and scam people out of a lot of money to buy old stuff when they can go and buy new for the same price. Now, if you're one of those people that can't afford to buy new, then when you are buying used parts, just make sure that you're not overpaying for those parts and you're getting them as cheap as possible. Do your research. You can still buy used parts on AliExpress and places like eBay, and also Facebook Marketplace and places like that, and Gumtree. You just need to make sure that you're not going to get stung. Now, the best way to buy used parts is to basically buy them separate, not as a computer, because that way people will be doing what I'm telling you here. They will be buying used parts separately and then putting them together and try to make a PC out of it and then selling it at a profit to themselves, because they'll put their bit on top and put some LED lights in there and make it look all fancy and call it a gaming PC, and they're going to rip people off. So if you're looking for deals, try and check out some of the sites like eBay, Facebook Marketplace, AliExpress, all these places, and look for some cheap deals. CEX in the UK is another place you can check, and basically look for some cheap deals where you can pick up maybe a graphics card. You can pick up the RX 570s and 580s now pretty cheap used. Some of them are going for like £80 and stuff like that. So have a good look around. And remember, you can build that PC and don't put the graphics card in it and buy a used graphics card, and that will save you a bit more money as well. But anyway, that is just about it for this video. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. Be very careful when you're buying used parts. There's some real scammers out there that will have your pants down if you let them. Okay. Anyway, my name has been Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. I shall see you again for another video tomorrow. Happy New Year. Bye for now. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the red subscribe button and then hit the bell notification button and click all to be notified when we upload new videos.